we get to move into our self-attuning practice, which also means that I get the honor of formally introducing my colleague and comrade, Oriana Ides. I want to welcome Oriana to take off hat as Summer Institute designer and put on hat as self-attuning metabolizer. I also want to invite us in the chat that this might embarrass you, Ori, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you have gotten the beautiful spaciousness of being able to learn with Oriana in any way, outside of SCR, in SCR, in SCRR, I want to invite you to drop a way in which you have appreciated how Oriana has supported your own healing journey. I invite you to share in chat how a learning with Oriana or from Oriana has supported your healing journey. And I then, while you're doing that, colleagues, will add my own, which is that when we were starting SCRR 4.5 years ago, I literally could not think of one other person that needed to be hired and on staff and co-create this gorgeous project. And I think I called Oriana like 7,000 times and she kept saying, what are you wanting to do? What are you starting? And the reason why is the following, that Oriana has a unique capacity of holding both head, heart, and hand all at the same time. That Oriana, you invite an exquisite ability to both be a dreamer and then also invite some of the undoings that we've been talking about, but in the most spacious and resourced way. That I, as your colleague, have grown enormously the last 4 years, and most distinctly because 2 years ago, you said, we've got to do this self-attuning work. Like, we're doing a lot of creating space, but we're not creating space to have clinicians and educators skill up self-knowing. And that is a way that I think about you as someone who really swims the waters of self-knowing and self-learning. So without further ado, I'm grateful, Oriana, for you stepping in, for you holding space. I hope that you get to read the chat of the ways in which you invite us into this work. And I should stop talking because otherwise I'm going to talk about how you help me self-attune for the next 25 minutes. So I'm out, Oriana's on, let's go.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to breathe this in and savor it. At another time, I do want to say that I'm working through my own disappointment because Candace, who was going to hold this space, is just an incredible guide with a beautiful ability to pull in past, present, future, all the realms, the natural world, in our ability to settle and attune and find healing. And so I was really excited about sharing that all with you. And so I'm overcoming that. And also just really grateful to be here. As Leora said, I have been engaging in my own journey towards self-attuning, and it really has been through this project that I've had the space to think about the significance of self-healing in my ability to show up in relationship to others, my ability to show up in relationship to the community, and to my dream and hope for a different world. And it was pretty recent in my early days with SCRR that I heard the words of MK Defoe share that we cannot problem solve from a dysregulated nervous system, that it is just really not possible. And so this moment is requiring tremendous problem solving. We are experiencing, as Shireen so beautifully and poignantly and heavily named, a tremendous amount of grief and loss and chaos in every realm of our being, personally, relationally, and structurally, absolutely. And the earth, our earth, is crying in pain as well. And so this moment requires problem solving for sure, and it requires our strength and ability to show up wholly, to show up with all forms of information in tow, so that we can build alongside one another the world we desperately need and deserve. And so, you know, I want to invite us to settle into our bodies a bit more, right? I think we have been practicing that throughout this morning for sure. And it takes muscle building, it takes practice, it takes the building of or forging of neural pathways, new ones, because so much of the way we're socialized does not support this slowing down. And so I just want to invite us to notice right now in this moment your posture. Notice what you're holding in your body as you sit in your seat. Notice the quality of your breath. Notice the quality of your thoughts. And can you signal to yourself that you are with yourself, that you are here as witness to your experience, that you are here to provide and create and protect safety for yourself? There's no fault of our own. We need that constant reminder, right? Self-attuning is so much about befriending ourselves, all of the parts of ourselves. And so just inviting us to signal to our body, our minds, our hearts that we are here. We are here for whatever surfaces in the next few moments together through this practice. Maybe think about anchors in your space that you can call upon for safety, for grounding, for support, as you may feel discomfort, uncertainty, feelings that are not so pleasant, maybe feelings that are new. For me, I look at plants, I look at colors, images on the wall as anchors for safety. Today's practice is going to be an exploration into our experience with crisis, our relationship to crisis, and how it might inform us and heal us so that we can be in right relation with others and with crisis. Because it's quite easy to build stories around what is, based on our lived experience, based on our conditioned responses to trauma and crisis. And so I'm hoping that through the practice I offer today, we can settle some, we can take notice and name what it is we're holding and how crisis shapes our relationship to ourself, to others, to the work that we're doing. And to kind of help us into that process, I want to offer just some kind of norming around what it means to attune. Oftentimes in therapeutic work, we think about attuning to our clients, we think about attuning to the other. And attuning to ourself is absolutely vital to stay open to the other. And so Activation is our emotional and or physical response to something we identify as a threat, right? It can be a real threat, it can be perceived, it can be an internal threat within or something external. Um, and we know that without attuning to or acquiring the right internal and external resources amidst chaos and crisis and trauma, our ability to actually see what is present shifts and changes and becomes hindered. Um, and so attuning um, is befriending or bearing witness to our experience, free from judgment, which is so hard to do in this society, right? And based on who we are, I think for safety, we often judge things to make a quick decision, right? If we didn't have judgment in place, it would be quite exhausting to come to a new conclusion every time about something. So, how might we befriend or bear witness to our experiences through crisis, our experience in this moment of profound crisis, with compassion, with openness, um, and with, I think, even what Alex shared yesterday in our opening with hope, which is such a necessary ingredient, a hope and a belief that something different is possible. And Trisha Hershey and so many other people say that what is required of us right now is rest, is a slowing down to notice, and then this finding of a liminal space that we cannot be where we once were and we're not yet in this new space. And I think about without slowing down, really, we miss the medicine of this moment. We miss the teachings and the wisdom of this moment that can guide us into this new and different and healing, healed space that we desire and deserve. So I just wonder if you can share in the chat, when might you know that you are experiencing activation? What are some of the signs and signals from your body, from your expression, um, that you are aware of in this moment around when you are in activation, or we may say triggered, or in our conditioned tendencies? Right? Increased heart rate and tension, absolutely. Clenched jaw and shoulders, absolutely. Our breathing becomes shallow. Shirley, who was on yesterday, um, shared, I think from Yogi Bhajan, that the quality of our breath translates to the quality of our life, right? That there is a direct correlation between uh, the, the depth of our breath and what we're experiencing externally. So our breath changes, shallow, quicker, thoughts may race, right? Judgmental of others and self, yes. Yeah. For protection, right? We go to, when we are in a place of perceived danger or threat, all of the extras kind of just fade away, right? Our digestion slows down because we don't need that to stay alive in this very moment, right? Our long-term vision, all of that begins to our sleep, everything begins to become impacted when we're in a state of fear or perceived danger. And that has kept us alive. It has kept us to this moment. And I think that's a lot of where the compassion needs to come into play. Appreciating, right, those conditioned tendencies, a hypervigilance, right? And I think about like what happens when we are operating day to day in school spaces from this way, when we are hypervigilant, right? When we are on edge, when we, how might we be in relationship to our young people, to families, to community members, to our leadership, if we are operating from a place of hypoarousal. Oh, I love this. Yes. our younger self show up for sure, right? It's such a key question that, whoa, how old was I when I responded in that way, right? What was that 15-year-old Oriana who was full of rage and just really upset at the world she's discovering? Or was that 3-year-old Oriana who's just looking for a hug and warmth and someone else to calm me? Yeah, thank you. So, from an unattended activation or unhealed trauma, or when we don't receive the external or internal resources that we need to metabolize difficult experiences, these are some of the things that are impacted in our sphere, right? Our ability to be present. Um, is absolutely compromised. We can become so full of a emotion, so full of rage, or so full of grief and loss that we don't see things around us, right? And then also, a burnout really isn't from inherently experiencing activation. It's from not processing the activation and then not allowing yourself to have the experience it needs to metabolize or decompress and release. So we become full of it. Um, and it impairs our ability to see ourselves, to feel effective in our work, to feel like we're making an impact or a difference. And for me, in all of the roles I've held in my life, the longest I was a teacher, and there's no more exhausting work that I have experienced or that I've seen from people around me and all the work that they do. Like the amount of work required as a classroom teacher, uh, morning through the day into the night onto the weekends, the emotional holding of this work, right? And then to feel like you are not making a difference because you are so full of the hurt you've experienced, the heartbreak can be really take a toll on us. And so I want to provide us in the next few moments. I think I have 5 minutes. Snap, I'm so good at this. I'm so good, good at running over. Um, I want to provide us some opportunity to kind of attune to this moment and what it is we're holding. How this moment of incredible, like, disruption, right, is showing up in our bodies, in our hearts, in our relationships. Um, and so uh, this is one of my favorite quotes. I've shared it many times. Every time I read it, different words really resonate with me. So I'm offering it again. And it is that the expectation that we can be immersed in the suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to walk through water without getting wet. This sort of denial is no small matter. The way we deal with loss, grief, our strong emotions, right, shapes our capacity to be present to life. We've allowed our hearts to become so filled with loss that we have no room left. And as you hear me read these words and as you read them to yourself, I invite you to share in the chat which of these words are landing for you. Yeah, letting it soak in, please. Right? And how is it settling for you? No small matter, right? In order to kind of exist in the world that we've been thrown into, we often minimize what it is we're experiencing to get to the next day, right? Because if we were to hold it all or see it all, it could be quite overwhelming. Yeah, that we're expected to exist in or create in unrealistic conditions. Our capacity to be present to life. Yes. Right. Walk on water without getting wet. It's all right? And so, what do these words mean for you? Where have you seen this here mirrored in your work, in your relationship to your colleagues, to your young people? How is or isn't it an accurate um, kind of telling of what we experience as educators, as therapists, as school-based support service staff, leaders? And then what does that mean for our ability to find renewal if we are indeed so full, or if we are indeed walking through a world with such unrealistic expectations? Yeah. Ayo Akumulafe, who I so deeply admire, says this. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to play the clip, but he says, what if the way we're responding to crisis is part of the crisis, right? What if we need absolutely new ways of thinking about justice, about healing, about education? And then he says in this quote um, that these ways exist. They already exist in African people, in people across the world, in many indigenous communities, within our ancestors. They are there, they have been there, they have been part of what has allowed us to reach this day and this moment. And how might we recall or tap into ancestral ways, slower ways, more attuned ways of being um, in our relationship to crisis. And so, Leora or stuff, so someone can share in the chat when I should end, that would be helpful. And then if everyone else can kind of take a moment to pause and reflect about this moment, right? He says in this quote that this is a profound moment. And so I'm asking you to name what in this moment, right? And not just 31 past the hour on August, but we are an accumulation of our lives and of our generations past, right? So, what about this moment feels so profound for you? If we could name it, if we could be witnessed right now in this moment as what is feeling profound, what is feeling big and heavy and a lot. For me, I'm waking up every day to martyred children in Palestine, and I am feeling intense grief and pain and rage in relation to that. And then I think about the young people in my community. I think about my children and I think about their suffering, and I just don't have enough in me to address the pain in every part of my life. That feels so profound to me. Right? There's no space permitted, much less created to deal with loss. It is on us. Yeah, I was part of a school that was so incredible. I got to see young people in their most beautiful selves. We were a part of this community. There was this momentum of learning and growth with educators. I'm sure I romanticized these 3 years at a school in a lot of ways, but it was profound. And I saw it and felt it with my own eyes. And then every school space I've been in since, I get there and folks are like, it's not possible. But I lived it, I saw it. And so I share that because I think that's what SCRR is. We have been now in this community and we have felt firsthand in our bodies what it feels like to settle, to heal, to name and acknowledge, right? All it is, we're holding our human experience. And now it is our responsibility to take this into our relationships, right? To continue to show ourselves up and to take this into our relationships in our community. Um, and so I'm gonna leave us with this. We will upload a practice and offer it maybe sometime in the coming semester as a guided practice. But I really want to thank you for all the places you allowed your spirit, your heart, your mind to go in the last 25 minutes with me as we thought about our lived experience, our relationship to crisis in this moment, and how it's showing up. And I hope we can right size our expectations and find that liminal space of creativity, of settlement, of settling to forge the world that we desire. So, thank you.